Hi, my name is Mike Cuddy, and I'm here to talk to you about making a three-column page layout using HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and the CSS Grid. The first thing I'll say is that I have a minor cold right now, so sorry about my voice. And the second thing that I'll mention is that I didn't know that QuickTime could only do videos, upload them to YouTube for about that or 15 minutes or shorter. So I'm going to make two videos of this in this course. The first one is going to be about some basic web page layout and covering Bootstrap using a three-column system with Bootstrap. And then the second video will cover CSS Grid, and it'll be a little bit shorter than the first one. So sorry about that, but other than that, what we'll be covering is just some basic web page layouts. And I will not be using tables nor floats for this. Like I said, it'll be Bootstrap and CSS Grid. We'll talk about how HTML and CSS should look. I'm a student at Gwinnett Technical College here in Georgia, and as a web design student there, I try to help other students. One of the things I see when I help them is that their code can look really, really bad and messy, and it takes away from me helping them as I try to explain to them how that page should be looking. And then from there, we'll move into Bootstrap. Then the video will end, and I'll have a second video which will cover CSS Grid doing the same thing that we did up here with Bootstrap. So I hope you enjoy it. But first, I want to show this funny image, this meme of that I got from a meetup a couple months ago, and it's like kind of making fun of what CSS is like. Like you try to fix one thing and you destroy something else. So it was just something that give me a quick laugh. And again, this is what will kind of look like the final product. This is 1, 2, 3. Have 3 different columns. So we'll make something that essentially looks like that. In the start, we have a blank HTML file. And to start, well, first I'll say that I'm using Sublime Text 2 as a text editor. I also have Atom. And if I ever use C++, I've got Xcode down here. But I really just stick with Sublime Text because it's more than enough that I need for my purposes right now. And I'm going to put the title up here, HTML CSS. Then after I have that, I'll do link. And right at this point, I can hit tab, and it fills it all in. And if you notice, I built this whole thing by just doing, excuse me, I have to take this out and fix that right like that. But I just went like HTML, and it just makes all that. So I'll just take it, undo. So I'll put HTML in up here. But yeah, so you can just hit tab right after that. And I want to connect to my CSS page. So I call it index.css. You can see it right there. Go right up here. I want to make sure I have a connection. So I'll do body, background color blue. And I'll bring this up, move it down here. You can see how the connection is good. The background color is blue. So that's good there. And now use a div tag, which is kind of like a container. Imagine like a box container that holds everything. And within it, I'll put an h1 tag, which is like a heading tag. And again, as soon as I have that, I just hit tab, and I'll just type 1. And you can have h1 through h6 tags. And this is a smaller one. I used to think 6 was bigger, but if I refresh the page, the 1 is the main heading and 6 is the subheading. So the way I think about that and remember that is just 1 is for first place. It's like the winner. And now I'm going to put in some paragraph, and I'll come right up here, and I'm going to use something called lorem ipsum, which is some fillers for words. And I'll just copy that. And if we refresh the page, right over here, it looks like that. And bring that up. So you can kind of see that you have this div on the page, and it's like, so what? So, but what does it look like? So if I go border, 2 pixels solid blue. This is something I like to do so you can actually visually see what your stuff looks like on a page. So that's the container right there. It's all highlighted with a blue border. So you can do that to help you visually see stuff. And I do that from time to time, especially when I'm using something like CSS Grid, which I'll do too in the second video. And then I'll make 3 more of these as we work towards making a 3-column layout. And I'll change this to 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I've got, but they're all in rows. So I've got the 3 containers, but they're all in rows, and I want them to look like this. Oh, I closed it, so I'll reopen it. So we've got that issue. So what I'm going to do now is I actually don't like how I want it centered, so I'm going to make a class. And in another video, I talk about the difference between like classes and IDs and cascading style sheets and how that all works. But Basically, with the class, you just go into your CSS file and you always just put a period in front of it. And if you're using an ID, you use a hashtag like, well, it would be like dash center like that. So this video is really focused on making a 3-column web layout, text align, center. If you watch, if I go back here, copy this and put it in the heading, the H1 tag, here, here, and here. Boom, 1, 2, 3. They're centered, but now I still need those columns. So now I'm going to use something called Bootstrap, and this is the Bootstrap 3 page. It's the components section, and if I don't really like using Bootstrap 3 because I hate all these like areas right here to scroll, and it's the point like getting all the way back to the top. So Bootstrap 4 beta is out, and it's something that I use here as its home page, and I really like to use it. I'll go back to that home page in a second. But if I can type in like navbar right here, it just comes up. So I don't have to scroll through all that stuff. So I take the CDN, which stands for Content Delivery Network. It's like a web links, so you don't have to download Bootstrap. You can download it if you want, or use something like Node Package Manager, NPM. But I'll just use the CDN. I just put it in there, bring it in. But before I have that, we have this like the web page growing, and as you can see, it looks fairly nice, but what we don't want is something that looks like this, where like the H1 and the H5 tag, they're all in the same line, or the CSS that looks like this. I've actually seen, like I said, students at CSS that looks like this, and it's really hard to read. Here's the CSS for one of my projects on GitHub, and as you can see, I'm using comments to define in each section, and it's nice and neat to read. So you want everything indented. It makes it easier to read, and it's very helpful for someone that's helping you to read your code. So now we'll go back. We brought in the Bootstrap, and if I go over here and refresh, you're going to see the font size and font change. You see? That's just what Bootstrap does by bringing it in, that CDN. And now I'm going to put all this into basically a container, a div, class, and this is a Bootstrap container. And what this is going to do is it's going to add some margins on the left and right. I like it. It makes it look a little bit cleaner. And I'm going to move this one back over right there so I don't have to indent the whole thing. Now watch what happens. Refresh it. Oh, there's those margins, so it makes it look cleaner. Then right below this container, I'm going to build a row. Div class equals row. I'm going to build another div, closing div tag down here. See, this is why you want to indent everything, because it can start to get hard to read. I'm going to highlight all this and indent it over once. And if I refresh this, oh, nothing happened really. It just kind of got shrunk. And now what I'm going to do is bring in this. But before I bring it in, I want to talk about something. With Bootstrap, you have to imagine there's kind of like 12 imaginary columns going down that like are maybe about this size or so. And I want 3 columns. So I go dash, and I small for like a breakpoint. It deals with smartphones, iPads, and how everything looks for like responsive design. Then I do 4 because I want 12 divided by 4 is 3. So it will give me 3 columns. I have my first div container, the second I want to put it in, and the third. And voila, I've got 1, 2, 3 columns. And it works out really, really well for that aspect. And you see how easy that was? It was just taking the Bootstrap CDN, right back up here, and just adding it right on in, and it's no problem. That's it to make 3-column layout. And you can play, so if you want to see, like again, kind of what that looks like. So it was simple, something as simple as that. And I'll go back here and mention that I've talked about the basic web page, made it from nothing, and I brought in Bootstrap and made 3 columns. In the second video, we're going to be bringing in CSS Grid and show how that works out. So I hope you enjoy that one. And I'll see you then.